Hello and welcome. I am Esther. I am Peter's AI assistant to create voiceovers. Peter is using me as his assistant, because men prefer to listen to a woman's voice. I will simply read Peter's blog posts, so that you have a choice of reading the blog post, or listening to my voice. Hello and welcome, gentlemen. I'd like to say thank you very much for coming along and listening to my latest blog post. As you know, I have been banned off LinkedIn for some years. Now that I am back, I will post items that I think are of general interest to people in what is now loosely called the data community. One area I have an interest is the cost of SeETL development for MicroStrategy users. Let me tell you a story. You will find this very amusing. In 1993, I was involved in selling Metaphor Computer Systems, data interpretation system, to Colesmire in Australia. Colesmire was a big IBM customer, and they are the largest revenue-generating company in Australia. In 1993, Colesmire had about 25% of the retail market in Australia. We tried really hard on the sale. We left no stone unturned. Eventually Colesmire made a terrible mistake and bought IBI047. They would try and build their reports on the top of IBI047 for the next 3 years. Of course, IBI047 would never, ever, scale to meet their needs. So in 1997 they finally abandoned IBI047. I made a number of calls again, to try for this next project. We did not get considered. They went with Oracle and Prism solutions for the SeETL software. They went for MicroStrategy on the front end because that was the only product in the market that would scale to their needs. I stayed in touch with Colesmire all those years, just in case an opportunity ever came up, where I could get some work. The whole time I was promoting my version of SeETL software to Colesmire. But being Colesmire, they went for Prism Solutions software, and that's fair enough. About 12 months later, I became the professional services manager for Ardent Software, when they bought Prism Solutions. One of my first calls was back with Colesmire to inform them I was now responsible for their account. The gentleman in question had the first name of Bernie. Given I was now responsible for their SeETL development team, Bernie decided to show me their data models. These were printed and laid out on a large conference room table. I walked into the room and took one look at the model and said, quote, "Oh my God, Bernie, what have you done?" End quote. Bernie said, quote, "That does not sound good," end quote. I looked over the models and could instantly tell that they had a physical table for each level of each multi-level dimension. I could also see they had a physical table for each level of each summary level fact table. They had hundreds of tables in this data model. I said to Bernie, "You have a physical table for each level of each dimension, and each level of each fact table, and so you must have prism mappings for each table." Bernie said yes, my presumption was correct. I said to him, quote, "My God, Bernie, I have been coming here telling you for 5 years, that you have one physical table for each dimension and each summary level fact table, and you partition those tables on a level column. That way you only have one mapping, one piece of SeETL, for each," end quote. His response was hilarious. It was, quote, "Yes, I know you told me that, but I didn't believe you," end quote. I asked Bernie, who told him to develop his SeETL and data models this way. He said MicroStrategy told him this was how it should be done. I checked across many MicroStrategy accounts. Sure enough, that was the advice MicroStrategy gave to accounts. The reason is simple enough. If MicroStrategy can get a client to adopt putting each level of each dimension, and each level of each different fact table, into a different physical table, there are no other products that can read that data model. You will be a MicroStrategy customer forever, if you design your tables like that. Don't get me wrong. MicroStrategy is my number 2 favorite end-user software behind Meta 5. They did a great job with aggregate-level navigation. They are the only company that implemented aggregate-level navigation properly. But the underlying data model can be multi-level tables the same way that Metaphor designed. And those tables can be read by any BI product. So, all jokes aside, there are a lot of MicroStrategy accounts in the world today. Almost all of them could reduce their cost of ETL development and support if they switched to SeETL, which is already multi-level aware. Let me give you the simplest of examples. In a MicroStrategy implementation, you have a day dimension, a week dimension, a month dimension, a quarter dimension, and a year dimension. That's 5-dimension tables. That's 5 pieces of ETL to maintain. In MyBI4 all models you have one table. TD0005. This is a multi-level table that contains all levels of time. It then presents out VM day view, VM week view, VM month view, VM quarter view and VM year view. One table. One piece of ETL. 5 views. When you start to multiply that out across the number of dimensions and fact tables you have today, the savings a MicroStrategy customer can get from changing to SeETL are very large. I have even tested keeping the multiple tables and using a union view over them to be able to replace existing ETL with SeETL. It works on SQL Server. So, it will most certainly work on Oracle, Teradata, and DB2. So, if you are a MicroStrategy customer, and you would like to cut your costs of ETL development and support, download SeETL and give the old C++ dimension table processing a run for your money. You will find that you can replace your old ETL for pennies. Your future ETL will cost less and be more reliable. It is frustrating to me that MicroStrategy did this. But you can't blame Michael Saylor for wanting to lock in his clients, if he can. That's just good business. Until your customers find out you did it. SeETL will cut the cost of ETL development and support for MicroStrategy customers. Especially those customers using hand-coded SQL for your ETL systems. Now, I hope you found this blog post interesting and informative. If you are a MicroStrategy customer and you want to reduce your costs of ETL development, you are one click away from getting started. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I really appreciate that. Best regards. Esther, Peter's AI assistant.